Hi guys, welcome. My name is Solo Raven. For those of you who are new here, today is Raven's Real Talk. It's my 9th Raven's Real Talk. And today I'll be using this session along with my scrumptious friends, Kisos and Kent, who you haven't seen yet. We will be talking about mental health. Exactly, first try. Basically what Raven's Real Talk is, it is a TV show. I always say TV show. It is a talk show. It's a talk show that I've created where I bring topics to the table to be discussed that are topics that have either affected us at some point in our lives or may affect us at some point in our lives, or things that are just generally good to know. And the point is to share our experiences, spread awareness about these topics, educate ourselves, educate each other, and essentially, ultimately, at the end of the day, it is to use this information, use these discussions to become a better person through self-improvement and self-reflection. And I've been saying this a lot recently, that in a time where so many people are arming themselves with hate and ignorance and just bad attitudes, we should all work towards improving ourselves, and we should arm ourselves with knowledge and positivity and empathy and compassion and kindness. So that's what Raven's Real Talk is all about. And I was fortunate enough and blessed enough that when I reached out to Kisos and Kent, they were more than happy to be on board for this project and this talk. So shout out to Kisos and shout out to Kent for agreeing to be on this talk show. I am going to begin by introducing them, and then we're going to give a few disclaimers and jump right into the agenda that we have planned for today. But before I do that, I would like to say that the purpose of this specific discussion is to not only share experiences and spread awareness and educate ourselves and others, and but also have empathy for those who experience mental health issues, which are the large bulk of us, and be kind to ourselves when our mental health is challenged, and ultimately become a better person through self-reflection and self-improvement. And I would also like to remind everyone who is new here or who has been here before that in addition to the rules that I've laid out for this channel, there are specific rules that are outlined for Raven's Real Talks. You can just do !code to get an insight onto what those rules are. And we do take offenses to those rules quite seriously, so you will either be timed out or banned. So I would suggest not even attempting to do that if you plan to stick around. But thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. Kisos and Kent, thank you for those hosts. And Brandon, thank you for that host. And I see Jujubucks in chat. I see DM Demois in chat. I see Zilla Manila. Hi. Confusion. Yeah, I'm sorry. Tech issues are really a thing on here. I see Jamie. Hello, Jamie. And I see Habibi and Slay. Hello, hello. And Tyrion. Hi, Tyrion. Thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate you. Without further ado, let's get into it. The first guest I would like to invite to the stage is Kisos. So let me tell you a little bit about Kisos, okay? I was on Twitch Sings one day. I wanted to sing Gravity. I wanted to make a new friend. And I was just browsing through Gravity and I was like, this guy looks cool. I'm gonna click on him. Didn't listen to him sing, nothing. Clicked on him. Oh my lord. I think in the video you could tell like I was blown away. If you guys haven't checked him out yet and you do Twitch Sings, please sing with him. He is incredible. He's got his own personal music, but I don't want to talk for him. He can talk about it himself. Please help me welcome Kisos.
Am I here? Do I
Yes,
talk?
You're good.
Oh.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I was like looking at the Discord. Hi everyone, my name's Kisos. I'm a music streamer and gaming streamer. I'm so excited to be here, Raven. Thank you. Like Raven said, if I may say another little anecdote.
Go for it.
I remember like I had a quieter stream day that day, and people were like lurking, and I was singing with Raven, and I was like, "Hello, there's no one. Hello, wake up, chat,
yeah.
wake up, chat. Listen." Yeah, so I'm really happy to be here. Like Raven said, I do have original music. I released an an EP recently, and I'm really excited to talk about mental health because it's something that I think about every single day. So yeah, we'll get into it.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you for being here, Kisos.
Yeah.
And the next scrumptious friend that I would like to bring to the stage is someone I actually happened to meet through Madame Gandalf. I think I raided her one day, and she was doing like a Friday date night with Kent and Kilroy, I think. Kilroy, which is another damn scrumptious streamer. I stopped by his stream the other day, and he's very, very kind. And as soon as I like got into the chat, first of all, Madame Gandalf, if you guys don't know her, she's extremely welcoming, extremely cool, super cool person. I had the pleasure of being a captain with her on Dare to Duet, but primarily I know her through Twitch Sings. And when I stopped by their little date night, Kent was so welcoming, and he was so open. Like he gave off a very open vibe of what he was saying, of the things he was discussing. He was very attentive to people in chat. Like when I was there, I was new to technically the stream, but Kent really made me feel welcomed and important and heard. And I was lucky enough to like stop by his stream as well and get to know him a little bit more through there. And I would have definitely missed out if I hadn't invited him on one of my real talks. So please help me welcome Kent Weebs.
Hello.
There we
Hi,
go.
guys. I know how to do this.
Looks like we all have tech issues.
Hi, I'm Kent Weebs. I am primarily like a variety streamer. Lately, I've been doing a lot of like, don't judge me, but Animal Crossing and loving Animal Crossing. I do a lot of like stuff like that. Yeah, I've seen Solo Raven on like Dare to Duet because Madame Gandalf forces me to watch all the stuff that she does. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But no, Solo Raven is amazing, and yeah, I'm ready to talk about all the mental health issues because we need to, I think. Yeah. And it's going to be a fun vibe, a serious vibe. Not cereal.
Cereal. I mean, I love cereal. That's fine. I do love cereal.
But yeah. And hi. Nice to meet you all.
Yay. Thank you, Kent, for being here. I really appreciate it. So I do want to give a couple disclaimers before we dive right in, guys. The purpose of the talk, as I mentioned, is to create a discussion and spread awareness about mental health with a focused lens on Canada and the U.S. But by us focusing on Canada and the U.S., we are not diminishing the importance of mental health conversations around the world. Everyone suffers from mental health issues, and everyone around the world suffers from mental health illnesses. So by us focusing on Canada and the US, we're not taking away from anywhere else in the world. We're just focusing on this data because I'm Canadian, they're from the States, so I just figured it would be, and there's just so much to talk about. Like when I was doing my research on mental health, I was like, oh my God, where do I start? There's just so much. And I tried to like just condense it because we only have 2 hours to talk about this. So not only will we share our personal experiences with mental health issues, but we will also discuss statistics of suicide rates, gender disparities, and suicide, what stage of life that most mental health issues surface, and alcohol abuse, mental health and income correlation, and access to mental health care and stigma, and many other subtopics that might just like organically come from the conversation. Feel free to participate in chat. I do apologize in advance if I don't quite address your comments. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just giving Kent and Kisos my full attention. But there will be time where we take a pause and we'll like read up on chat. So since we're discussing these stats, I do want to say that we are not medical specialists, nor are we statisticians, nor are we therapists. We are conversing using our own personal experiences, and we're just speaking on the data that we have collected, that I've collected, and we're going to talk about that. So before I get started, I think it's important to make a distinction between mental health and mental illness. So in your opinion, guys, what do you think is the difference between mental health and mental illness? Kisos, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we're not experts, so I don't really know the biggest difference. I think mental health is kind of, more overarching, affects everyone, where mental illness is more of a severe thing that affects less, well, I guess you could say less of the population, but, different people have different severities of different things that are diagnosable versus just more of like moods and
Mm,
stresses that can bring us down.
yeah. Yeah, Kent, what about you?
Um, for me, I feel like mental illnesses are like those disorders that that were clinically given onto people, like the anxiety disorders, schizophrenia, like eating disorders and stuff like that. But mental health is more something that you can do on your own. You can work to it at your own levels, I think, and you have more control over your own mental health than mental illness. I don't really like the word mental illness, but like, yeah, that's what I feel.
Yeah, I really like that differentiation where it's like it's internal, it's with you, it's more manageable. And when I was doing my research, I was like, I actually don't know the difference between mental illness
Yeah.
and mental health. I don't know. So it was a great eye opener for me. And the definition that was given, according to Mood Disorders Society of Canada, mental health or mental well being as a balance of mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health. So mental health, like Jesus mentioned, it's more of like an overarching, it's something that affects us all. And we have fluctuations in our mental health. Some days will be amazing, some weeks will be great, and then some days will be super depressed and we just won't be okay. We won't be ourselves. And it said that caring relationships, a place to call home, a supportive community, work, and leisure all contribute to mental health, which is really interesting because when I think about the things that most stress me out and take away from my mental health, it's most of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. But since having like perfect mental health all the time is a dream and it's very, very, it's like highly unlikely, mental health is also about coping. Learning coping skills to deal with life's ups and downs, deal with those fluctuations in our lives. And it's a generic term that has evolved to refer in all forms and degrees of mental. It's a generic term. Mental illness, though, what they mention on their website is a disturbance in your thought, perceptions, and emotions that affect your ability to think, make decisions, and function on a day-to-day basis. That's definitely like way more serious than just having mental health issues, which I'm not discounting or diminishing the importance of recognizing, but I'm trying to like make that distinction clear.
Right.
And the website also said that there are degrees of mental illness, and some examples of these are schizophrenia, depression, bipolar disorder, anxiety disorders like panic attacks, phobias, obsessions, and eating disorders, of course. So I think that was really informative for me. I don't think I would have known the difference if I hadn't embarked on this research journey. So I think that was really
It
useful.
helps to like categorize it,
Yeah, because sometimes like I feel depressed and I'm like, am I mentally ill? Or am I just like having a bad day? Because we all have bad days. And
Right.
sometimes I feel like if you get it in your head that there could be something clinically seriously wrong with you, you may escalate situations and like put yourself in a situation where you like focus on the negativity so much that it might turn into something more serious. Right? So it's like kind of good to just know that.
Right.
But of course, guys, if you're out there and you're experiencing something that you think is a severe, issue, like definitely seek help for that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't seek help for that. So I did want to share a couple of stats with you guys, and I wanted to discuss the research that I did based on the stats. So here we go. Let me just open it up and not fail. Here we go.
Let's do it.
Let's see. I'm like seeing it on my phone, so I want to see if I did it correctly. In the meantime, while that loads up, oh, you like Frosted Flakes? That's a great cereal, by the way. Just going back to that. Apple Jacks.
Wait, man, I can't hear you anymore. I think something happened.
Oh. I don't think we have Apple Jacks here in Canada, to be honest with you guys.
Oh, I hear you again.
There we go, yeah. Yeah, you're good.
I moved my mic up closer, and like my freaking mic is just like not working with me these last couple days. They're just like, you know, Ken, we don't want you to talk anymore. It happened to me on Late Night Date Night a couple days ago, and I was just like, why?
We can hear you now, which is great.
Excellent. Okay, great.
Okay.
Yes, Frosted Flakes.
Frosted Flakes. Okay, Habibi, we don't gotta talk about this. Everyone makes fun of me for putting milk first and then cereal. But listen, everyone has their own preferences. I just love cereal and I don't want it to get soggy. So I put the milk first and then I put the cereal. A little bit at a time in increments. It doesn't make me a cereal killer.
Oh, that's actually more interesting versus like putting in the milk and then putting in all the cereal.
Yeah, I don't like it.
You do make sense in that way.
I don't like it being soggy. I like the crunch of cereal.
Okay. Are you the type of person to put ice cubes in your cereal? Because I've seen that trend happening, and I know we're talking about mental health, but like,
who does that?
Happening. Okay, so it keeps the milk cold. You could also make ice cubes of hold. You could do ice cubes of milk, like milk cubes, and have it colder, so it like keeps it cold. It might be good for summer. I know. I like like this.
Summer hacks. Cereal hacks for the summer.
Cereal hack for the summer. If it's too hot in your area, freeze your milk and then make your milk ice.
Ain't you got a fridge?
Sponsored by Kent's Milk Cubes.
Oh my, okay.
Get them today. Only $42.92.
Yeah. Why is it $42.92 and not $42.99?
Because... Duh.
Just because. Okay, got it.
It's cheaper.
You're right.
We have to slash those numbers down here at the
slash those numbers down. Juju says, same difference as the one between physical health and regular illness. Yeah, but it's like something that I guess it didn't register for me. Illness, physical or mental, is something you can pinpoint and most often need help to recover or minimize the symptoms. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I know all about my issues.
Good point.
Yeah, that is a good point for sure. Milk cubes sound weird, but way more acceptable than regular ice cubes in your cereal. You're right. How do you say
it? Does. It does.
Buf? It does sound a lot more understandable. So the first stat I would like to discuss with you guys is one that I found on the document. It was a document that was prepared by for the Mental Health Commission of Canada, and it said that the percentage of mental health problems that are onset, which they surface, are during childhood or adolescence, is 70%. So 70% of mental health problems develop or show their first signs during childhood or adolescence. Why do you guys think that that's the case, Kent?
I think that there's certain aspects in adolescence and childhood that really bring out like certain issues that we may have. Because like I know, like for me, like, and probably a lot of us, like realizing that you're like in the LGBT, that's going to cause a lot of mental frustrations and lead to certain other things. But I don't know. Like I myself was like diagnosed with like ADD as a kid. Like, okay, but that was back in the 90s. I feel like everyone else was categorized as ADD as a kid back then too. But like, what was the question again?
Why do you think that so like a large portion of mental health issues form or show their first signs at those ages, like childhood or adolescence?
I think it's because like those are times where certain events could happen and like it will prolong and endure. I think
I just feel like that's the time when like you're learning how the world works, you're learning how to interact with people, you're more closely, like your circle is really just like your family, they're the people you love. So if there's anything that happens at family, it can
Interesting.
really deeply affect you. At school, or if you come from a really loving family as well, but then maybe you go to school and you get bullied, I feel like it kind of is like I mean, culture shock isn't the right word, but it's just
Like a
like
shot, yeah.
a shock, a literal, it's just a shock. My hairs are doing the sticky thing again. My long hairs. But yeah, it's just a thing where, the bubble kind of pops. I know that happened for me, especially around like middle school too, where it's like elementary school, a lot of people are nice and, people are, you kind of just know each other. You've known each other since you were kids. Then maybe you go to middle school. For me, it's a different school when you go to 7th and 8th grade where I grew up. And, there's kids from all over different parts of the city, different groups of friends, different people that don't know you. They have their own different home lives, and it starts adding in even more of the like variables and
Yeah.
clashes, and that's what you remember, because it's like also the years that you're the most self-conscious. So I think all of those things kind
Interesting.
of add together, versus as adults sometimes you've already been through it. So although we can still definitely have a lot of these struggles and difficulties, sometimes you can deal with certain things more than others because you have practice, but then you build your wall. It's a whole thing.
It is
It's
a
a whole
whole thing.
ball.
And that's why I thought that this was really interesting, the stat, because on one hand, it like makes sense because at that age, you're so impressionable, you're so vulnerable, like you're just learning, you're a sponge, like everything, like you said, everything, like little thing could affect you, you're like absorbing it. But at the same time, I'm thinking of myself when I was those ages. Like I understood how the world worked, but I didn't really like get it, right? I didn't get the dark
Right.
parts of it. But like
Right.
now I get the dark parts of it. So I would feel like most of my mental health issues would surface in this age, or like late teens, early 20s, because that's when you're really like starting to really start absorbing things in that way and actually understand
Right.
what you're absorbing. But I can totally understand why that the 70% is there. And my takeaway from that statistic is if you come into contact with a child or you have a child of your own, it is so much more important for you to be paying attention to them, the things that they're experiencing, their school. There are so many parents that I have interacted with that I will ask them like, oh, what's your kid learning in school or whatever, and they won't know. Like parents just have kids
Wow.
and then they don't like really, sure, your kid might be like, oh my god, you're so annoying, whatever, but
Right.
better that than turns out they're being bullied, turns out they're getting naked pictures of them circulated around school, turns out they're being like harassed in the bathroom. Like I won't lie, some of these things that happen to kids, I'm like, how did your parents not even know about this?
Yeah.
Right? Like it really makes you question how, and I'm not blaming the parents, but I'm saying that it's just important if you're choosing to have a child, you got to go all the way, right? You got to go deep into their lives, really invest in like, who are they seeing, who are they spending time with, what are the influences that are coming their way, how is their teacher treating them, what kind of school are they going to. Sounds like a lot of work, but if you're going to make the choice to have a child, that's the stuff that comes with it.
Yeah, I feel like you have to be really engaged, and
Mm-hmm.
it's about like just kind of like you were saying, like they might not want to talk about it, but the kid knowing that they can come and
Yes.
talk to you about it is really important. And not necessarily being a helicopter parent. I mean, now this is a parenting stream and none of us have children, but
Right. Right.
but it does deal with it. I mean, some of us might be raising younger siblings or things where it's not like we chose to be parents, but you have someone in your life that you need to care for. So I was just gonna say, on top of that, just I forgot, what were we think? Going to engaging and talking to, not being a helicopter like parent, like to younger siblings or people in your lives, but trying to just talk with them about it, help them process things and cope with things, because you can't protect them from everything.
Right.
So, and you can't protect yourself from everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about just learning these processes as quick as possible and gaining confidence so that things affect you less and you have more view of the world and know that, this person's opinion of you doesn't make that thing true about you and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, you're so right. I am no way. I'm not a parent. I don't choose to be ever.
No, that's
And I
okay.
am not making this up like, oh my God, I know how to parent. But it just makes me sad when I meet kids and they're just like, yeah, my parents don't even take any interest in my life. And it's just sad because it's like they make the choice to have a child and then they are not really invested in their life. So that's what I meant. Thank you for
Yeah,
bringing that
no,
up
it's
because I do
good.
want to make that disclaimer. The second stat that Juju mentioned, but I thought you were right. Children don't have much notion of any social norms. They're not really themselves, or they don't, slash, they don't hide their. Oh, so they're really themselves. They don't hide their emotions. Teens have more intense emotions, might be harder to hide or fake the expected ones. That's actually, yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. Or fake expected ones. That's scary. I feel sad for people who live in an environment where they feel like they have to fake. They can't be themselves. That's really sad.
Yeah.
The second stat that I wanted to discuss with you all is something that I found. This was actually a shock to me. I had no idea that this was the case. But I do want to share it with you all. So give me un secondo.
We loading, baby.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the statistic I found is the second leading cause of death for people aged 15 to 29 worldwide is suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And that came as a shock because and it's just one after car accidents. In case you're wondering what the first one was, car accidents was the first one. And this is a statistic from WHO, so World Health Organization. And I found that really interesting because I didn't know it was that high, right? And the next statistic, if you look at it, the number of people who die by suicide per year in Canada is 11 per day. In the States, it's 132 people per day. 132 people per day all over the States are dying from committing suicide. That blows my mind. And to put into perspective, Canada's population is 37.59 million. Okay. And US population is 382 million ish. So
Sounds about right.
sounds about right. So 132 of those people are dying every day, which is just mind blowing. So what I wanted to ask, since this seems like it's so prevalent, have either of you ever been in a situation where you have contemplated suicide? And if so, what kept you from going all the way, following through? Sorry.
Do you want to start, Ken, or me? I
I
can start.
If you want to start, that's
If you want to
cool.
gather.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely used to self-harm. I wasn't the type to I was always too scared to do like a cutting of any sort or like to draw blood, I should say. Um but I definitely, whenever I would get really frustrated about myself, about the way I looked, about certain things, I would definitely self-harm. And I remember like previous partners and people like who would see me, especially if it was something like, sometimes I would just like bang my head if I was getting like really angry, like having kind
Right.
of a panic attack breakdown. And, people trying to calm me down. But I think, and I have talked about it before in like music and stuff too, and just like trying to kind of letting those feelings out and talking about those feelings help you get through them. But I think the thing for me that, I never went through with it was, for me personally, I know that I personally, let me stress personally, did not necessarily have anything that bad happening in my life. I was just very overwhelmed with stress and expectations and pressures and things. And I knew that I didn't want that like ultimate consequence for myself of my life ending. Although there were many times where I thought of it where I'm like, sounds kind of peaceful.
Yeah, right,
Wonder
right.
what it would be like to float in the void and just kind of disappear. But again, I think it was kind of, like I said, there was always kind of a glimmer of hope for me, which not everyone has. And I was just lucky to have like a good support system around me and access to therapy to get through all of that stuff.
So you were still kind of conscious of the consequences when you were going
Yes.
through these feelings.
Right. It was kind of
Okay.
like, do I really want to stop myself from like living life and going after my goals and experiencing things? And yeah, I don't think it was ever something that I could have fully done,
Committed
because I
to,
couldn't
right?
even, and I want to be really careful with how I word this, but I wasn't even, um I didn't feel in a bad enough place where I wanted to even harm myself as badly as some other people do. So yeah, I definitely, I think I just, like I said, I just, there were certain consequences where I was like, I wanted myself to feel pain, which isn't not always healthy, although it can be normal. I wanted myself to feel some pain and I wanted to punish myself, but I didn't
Yeah.
want to punish myself that hard.
Yeah. And I think that's really, I'm really glad that you didn't go through with it.
Yeah.
But I like that you mentioned that it's normal sometimes to feel like you want to punish yourself. It's normal to feel like you want yourself to suffer or feel pain, because I think
Right.
there's a lot of people who feel that way. I think a lot of us have self deprecating moments, whether it's verbally, whether it's physically. And I think as long as it's done in a limiting, and it's in, as long as it's limited and it doesn't turn into like extreme, I guess, self-harm where you draw blood and there's like bruises and things like that. I might be getting like too graphic for some people, but I think then it's, should definitely seek help. I think it goes, there's a limit to how much is, I don't want to say normal. There's a limit to how much is like something that you can manage by yourself, till it gets to a point where like you definitely need someone to help you out and intervene to help you
Right.
solve the issues that you're dealing with. And there's
Yeah.
no harm. There is no harm and no shame in seeking help. I know there's a stigma around that, and we will get to it later on in our talk. But there is no shame in being like, I need help. It doesn't make you a weaker person. If anything, it makes you stronger. Let me tell you, to recognize that you need assistance and you're getting that help that you need. So I
Yeah,
do
it
want to
takes
say that.
effort. And I was just gonna say one more thing real quick.
Yeah.
Like definitely, I luckily I've been through enough where I don't do any of that type of stuff anymore. So I just feel like even though it might not be as permanently damaging physically, those things can still like, you can really kind of like Raven was saying earlier, where you can focus on these things and start to spiral, and then you focus on like your own self-hatred, and then it makes you want to do things more and all of that. So whenever you feel any of those things, like try to just, cut it at
Cut
the
it.
start and talk to people. And if you feel like you can't stop it on your own, then see what resources you can gather together to go to a professional.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Kent?
All right, so, um, yeah, the whole suicide thing. I actually tried to go fully through with it when I was like 15. The first, like, I started doing this, like, some self harm on my arms when I was like 13 as a way of coping, which was back then. I thought it was a good idea because, like, 13, I'll just feel my pain in a different way and see the physical of it. And then when I was like 15, I was like in a really dark spot. I didn't like what Kios was saying. He was saying like, um, he was able to see the like reactions if he were to self harm or end, and like I wasn't there. I couldn't see it. So like, I, I I still have the scars that sent me to the hospital. But yeah, I was in a dark place, and like I was seeing a therapist at the time as well. But like it, sometimes you just lie to your therapist, and when
Mm-hmm.
you're in that, when you're in that age, when you're in that mindset, you can come up with the best lies and have them believe you because like you want to hide that. Um, yeah, so like I have them now covered up, but like there's like a long one right here and then another one. I then was a little more honest with them and they helped me, and I still see my therapist to this day, but like
That's
yeah,
awesome.
being like in an adolescent mindset where you think you're like not, you don't have anyone to turn to is really hard. because yeah, it was really difficult, and sometimes you don't realize that there are people around there to help you that will relate, but like you're just you just it was a rough life at that moment, but like it got better and it gets better. So
And why did you feel like you wanted to hide? Like, why did you want to hide that?
like the which part?
The self-harm, your pain.
Oh, just because, like, I live in this community where everyone has to look perfect all the time, be perfect, be the adequate normal, and like, if you're not normal, then you're just like the talk of like, oh my god, did you hear about their son? They're blah blah blah, and like,
Oh,
so
God, I hate
yeah,
that.
no, I lived in a very conservative, like area, and so like I knew about this status quo since I was very young, but like it didn't relate until like you saw like differences in yourself that are not relatable when you hear the family gossip about another family, and so like yeah, but that's one of the reasons why like I wanted to hide things and not just hiding that like normalcy of the same, but like I don't do that anymore.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
And if
yeah.
you don't mind me asking, the reason you didn't follow through all the way was that someone intervened? Did I
Oh
understand
no,
that
no, I
correctly?
followed
Okay.
through all the way. I was hospitalized, and
Oh my goodness.
yeah, so I was hospitalized. It wasn't as deep as they thought, and I literally told them that like my parents. I was like, I fell out of a tree.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
They didn't believe you, though, right?
Of course they
Okay,
didn't.
okay, good. Okay.
No, but like I fell out of a tree was my excuse for the longest time.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
it goes to show like how deep that shame can
Yeah.
go. Like even there, you still didn't want to bring it up. There's so much pressure.
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you ever
And
feel
they're-
like sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, no, go questions. Yes.
I was just
go
saying,
for
did
it.
you ever feel like you inflicting self-harm and you having your pain, did you ever feel like a burden, and is that a reason you didn't want people to people to know?
I don't know if it was the burden. I think it was like this sense of like it's a way out.
Okay.
And like the floating in the void that Kios mentioned was very prevalent in my mind as
Okay.
well. But I guess yeah, the burden of it all too is like kind of releasing the load of
Yeah.
my burden off of society, off of like familial pressures, all of that. Yeah, for sure.
Totally get it. And it's easier, you thought it was easier to do that than talk about it, work through
Exactly.
it, all of that. Yeah. I feel like
Yeah.
even though talking is so healthy, it does take a lot of effort. It's exhausting, going through all of that. And I think especially when you're at such a vulnerable age in your life, like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you possibly even sometimes recognize that that's the best route to go about it. Like, you don't see
Yeah.
that as like, I should
Yeah,
probably
no.
talk to someone about this. You're just
Well,
like,
what's funny
I'm
is
wallowing,
like my
right?
parents aren't like they're
Sorry,
not,
not
the type of
wallowing,
family-
drowning. Sorry. I meant drowning.
Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, no, my parents are like those. My parents are in there now. Like now, they're in their 70s, and like they're not those like hands-on like we love you kind of parents. They're like we don't talk about our feelings. We've gone through the depression. We've done this
Got
and that,
it.
and like so like
Got it.
it's very and yeah. So it's like it was rough, but like now I try to make them talk more about their feelings, and like my brother does too. Like we're both like trying to like teach them and integrate talking more about how they're feeling and what they're going through. And I guess since we're older now, it's easier because like we're able to talk as like more peers
Yeah.
than like that parent and kid kind of
Gap.
relationship.
Yeah.
And yeah, that kind of yeah. Teen life was fun. Let's just fun.
I'm really glad that you didn't go, like, you weren't successful.
I'm glad that it wasn't a successful attempt.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. And I'm really glad that you are now using sort of like your second chance at life to help your parents who maybe didn't get that opportunity from their parents. And like
Oh,
they
for
just
sure.
did the cycle right with you guys, and thankfully you guys are breaking that cycle, which is so important, something that we all should strive to do. we should not continue the cycles that our parents had ingrained in them from their parents. I think I call it emotional constipation, is a conversation that I talk about. Like, I have a lot of talks about this on my stream, because unfortunately, I've noticed, or like through my research, through schooling, through like interactions, it plagues men more than women, just because of how they're raised, how they're taught to behave. And that actually is a great segue to the next bit that I wanted to discuss. There were gender disparities, no surprise there, in the suicide statistics. And it said that in Canada, more than 75% of suicides involve men. So more than 75%, way more than half, involve men. But women attempt to suicide 3 or 4 times more often. And in the U.S., yeah, right? And in the U.S., white males accounted for almost 70% of suicide deaths in 2018. And adult females reported a suicide attempt 1.5 times more. So in both countries, females attempt to commit suicide more than men, but men account for following through the most in both countries. And so why do you guys think that that's the case? Why do you think there is that gender disparity?
At first, I was going to say, I mean, until you mentioned the attempt thing, because I didn't know that, I was going to say, you know, like you were saying, like in our societies, at least generally in the United States and Canada, men are not supposed to talk about their feelings versus, you know, women are allowed to be more emotional,
okay, yeah.
given more space like that. But then it's interesting if we're talking about that women are attempting so much. I mean, that kind of ties into how much pressure there is on women, period, to look certain ways and be certain ways and all of that. So it's like, you know, a double-edged sword where it's like, sure, we're allowed to be more emotional, but then we're judged for our emotions. We're, you know, judged for our bodies. And by we, I'm talking about women, which I'm not one, but, you know, I'm just
right.
Yeah, but yeah, y'all get it. Yeah, so that's that. I guess that's how I would explain that. But yeah, it's kind of surprising. I did want to mention too that I know that different communities, although you said white were 70% of the suicides. I don't know how much that is proportionally, but I know like different communities and a lot of communities of color and indigenous communities have higher rates, and that also ties into not just family life, but it can tie into like economics. And, you know, because the government doesn't support certain people and has, you know, had racist policies forever, it forces people of color to lower socioeconomic classes. They have more stress on their life, all of that stuff. Doesn't have to do with gender necessarily, that part, but wanted to mention that.
But no, that is completely valid. And I thankfully never attempted suicide, but I did think about it a lot. And it was mainly around middle school, high school, like those ages when it was just like extremely stressful. And I think the last time I like truly had thoughts was 4 years ago, I want to say. It was just a really bad time in my life. I had a terrible job. The woman, like my boss at that time, was like emotionally abusive, terrible. She made me feel like crap every day going into work, working for someone that you just really dislike. I lost myself. I didn't even know, and I pride myself in my work ethic and my commitment to work and my organization, and I just like lost all of that because she just was like shitting on me every day. And on top of that, I had just gotten out of a serious relationship, so the weight of no longer having that partner in my life and no longer having like a life with them secure that I thought was secure and that I like saw, it was right there. We were planning to get engaged, we were gonna get married and all that, and like all of that just like falling apart. And it's like, oh, and you suck at your job, and he don't want you back, and blah 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 blah. Like everything was just falling apart. I was like not at a good place with my parents, like everything. It literally seemed like everything around me, like no part of my life was like I have something to hold on to, you know. So I think that was the last time where I really needed help. And I remember my mom's a healthcare professional, so I remember I still remember, like, I don't think as long as I don't get any like severe memory loss, I don't think I'll ever forget this. Like I was crying in my bed one time My mom came to check up on me. I sat up in bed and I was just like bawling my eyes out. And she was like, do you need help? And she was just like, I can talk to a doctor for antidepressants. And that is so progressive for someone from her generation, from where she grew up. She grew up in Pakistan, but she has roots in Yemen. It's a Middle Eastern country. So like in places like that, we don't really talk about mental health. We don't talk about your feelings. They have always had a hard life. So it's just like, you just push forward. You just go on through every day. So I think that's something that helped me. And I definitely agree with Kisos. That case was for me too. Like anytime I had thoughts of committing suicide or harming myself, I'm really close with my younger brother. So that was honestly a lot of the times like the main deterrent for me personally. I was like, who's going to take care of him? Like, who's going to like teach him the ropes in life and be there for him, talk about things that he's going to struggle with in high school and middle school and stuff like that. But I know for a lot of people, they don't have that, right? They look around and they're like, no one's going to miss me. Like, no one's going to notice that I'm gone. So what is the point? And to those people, I know it seems like you're alone, but trust me, if you just try to just reach out to one person, I'm sure there'll be someone in your life that would at least try to help you. And if they don't know how to help you, they might recommend you or turn you to someone who might be able to help you. But like, please don't give up. Really, like, life is precious, and I'm not going to give you the rant like life is valuable and it's wonderful and beautiful. It's really shitty sometimes, but the world is good if you with you in it. So I just wanted to put that out there. Kent, what about you?
For what?
Oh, for the gender disparities. I was just wondering if you... I'm sorry, I talked a lot.
No. Sorry. My ADD sometimes just goes all over the place. So I was like listening and I was like, wait,
Same.
what are you talking about?
I'm so sorry.
No. Okay. So the reason I think that white males go through with it more in the US and Canada than, like, the attempts may be higher with the women. Yes. But I think a lot of them, I'm just going to have to turn to the LGBT, and like there's a lot of gays that are just getting bullied. And I think that's one of the reasons why there's a lot of suicide attempts and follow throughs for the males out there.
Yeah.
It may not be all of the percent, but I think that's why there's a lot higher numbers with males than females. But the attempts with females is still disparaging and ridiculously high.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the reasons to why I think the males go through it. I mean, there's probably a lot more other reasons and other statistics out there for why white men are going through it, or and not. Yeah.
But I think that is a good factor that does play into the statistic as well. And I do agree with what Kiso said. When I read that statistic, that's what I thought of. I was like, I can see how that frustration of going against your nature, of being like a social being, of being of having these feelings, like feeling sympathy and hurt and all of these feelings that men are forced to like push down and suppress. It gets eventually you will explode, and all these expectations that are on top of it put on. And see, this is something I talk about on my stream a lot as well, which is men are raised, generally speaking, men are raised to be strong and be protective and not talk about their feelings, not show your feelings, don't cry, you're a boy, don't blah 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 blah. But then, right, everybody wants their son to be a good husband. How can you be a good husband if you are not there for your partner, if you're not caring and comforting and loving and patient and kind and compassionate? Like, you weren't taught that, but you're expected to be that, right? And yes,
yeah, that's stunted emotional intelligence right there.
Exactly. And yes, there is an onus on the person themselves to eventually get at a stage in their life where they start to like learn these things and teach themselves that. I do believe that eventually we all get to a point in our lives where we can't use I was never taught that, like 28, 29, like you got to start figuring out the person you want to be. But at the ages before that, you're expected to be things that you weren't even taught or ever exposed to. So I can understand why people in the ages of 15 to, what was it, 15 to 29, that suicide is the second largest killer. And what in terms of age, it said more than half of the suicides, so more than half in Canada, involve people 45 or older. And in US, among females, the suicide rate was highest for those between 45 and 54, so around the same age. And for males, it was 65 and older. So I found that statistic a little interesting. But I feel like if we took the genders in account in Canada as well, we would probably have similar statistics, because the Canada one was a little more generic. It said 45 or older. So I feel like it's about the same. So why do you guys think the age plays a part in the suicide rates?
Okay, for the 45 or older, I feel like that could have to do with like some type of like midlife crisis,
Yeah.
or like something where they're rooted in like that perfect life. I mean, this is very hyper generalized right now, but like they're living that perfect life, and then something detrimental happens, and like they think that's the only way out is to go through with something that life changing. You know, like if they can't pay the bills, if they can't do this, but they have a decent like life insurance. I know they could use that as a way out, and have everyone
Secure.
safe, secure. But like, I don't know. There's a lot of factors to why someone in 45 to 54 to do that. Yeah. Oh.
I was gonna say, I think of it kind of. You said women are 45 to 54, and then men are like 60 or 70.
65 older, in the States.
Older. Yeah, I was gonna say. No, I think you said it right.
Yeah, you did.
I'm pretty sure you did. I was gonna say, I feel like that's kind of like the ages where people are seen, like if we're just talking in a two-gender society for this one example, where like women are seen as undesirable at an earlier age.
Oh, interesting.
It's like, okay, well, I'm single, I can't have kids anymore, no one wants me. Versus guys, they can they get more leeway in society. So I feel like when they're older, it might be not until they're 60, maybe they're retiring, and they're kind of like, I'm retiring with nothing, and I don't even have a job anymore. So
I agree. I think when I read those statistics, I kind of thought the same thing, because I don't know how the body works at 45 or so, but I think that's probably when you like start to get the pains, and like, your body doesn't function as quite as well as it did in your 20s and 30s. So I feel
also
like
menopause at 50, 45
oh yeah,
to 54
I think so.
Women.
Yes,
I think that's around the time.
I think so too. Yeah. You're right. I think so too. I think it's like 50 or something onwards. But I know a lot of people that get to a certain stage when like I don't know. Sometimes what I think about is like, if I can't play volleyball anymore, if I can't work out anymore, if I have like health problems, I don't know, man, like that's really depressing. Like that would really get to me. So I can understand if someone at those ages start to develop health issues, they start to not be able to function and do the hobbies that they at like one point in their life were able to. They lose passion for life. They don't have hobbies that they can do anymore. So like they got to find new hobbies at like 60. And I'm not saying that you can't. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying you got to also think of like the life you've lived. Some people at 60 are amazing, healthy, got all their teeth, all of that. And there's some people at 60 whose health are deteriorating. They're diagnosed with a, terminal disease or something. And I can see why you lose the will to live at those ages. I completely get it. Especially if you're also someone who, I know some people, I've heard of this. You know how people say, what's that? Like they've left the nest or something?
Oh, empty nesters?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, the empty nest.
Yeah, so like your kids have moved on with their life. They don't need you anymore. You're almost seen as a bird. You might feel like a burden if your kids make you feel that way. Would you really have anything to live for if you don't have a passion, you don't have a job, your partner might have passed away already, your kids don't need you anymore, they might be like putting you in an old age home, and you're like, what is my life? So I can see how that can eventually get to you, and you're just like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah, I could go back to a burden thing like you were saying too, where like as you know the people get older, they're like, I'm just gonna go in an old folks home, the kids don't come around. I was also gonna say in the US, and you maybe touched on this a little bit when you were talking about like illnesses, but in the US, you know, we don't have like socialized healthcare. So there's a lot of people who might run into issues, not be able to pay their bills, and are just like,
oh my God, that's so true.
I give up, you know?
Why would I want to be a burden to my kids who have to pay for these bills because I don't have money to pay for it myself?
Right. Or even if it's just like, even if they're already like kind of a more solo person, but you know, they're getting the calls every day. They are living paycheck to paycheck and they have to live another 20 years like that.
No,
it's stressful. We don't have support for that, for humans. We don't have support for humans in the United States. If you didn't know.
Wait, what? No support at all?
Maybe a few, but most no.
I'm just going to catch up on chat a little bit. Rikoko says, thank you all for being so honest about your experience, that it helps so much. And I'm glad, Rikoko, that you feel like you can relate. So thank you. And thank you very much for that follow. I'm sorry that I missed that. But you know what? I am not going to let you not get a proper follow speech. So I'm going to do it right now.
Oh my God.
Rikoko727, thank you so much for the follow. You see that, Raven? That is you. You are now under my wing. Welcome. And Gandalf, thank you so much for that host. So wait, I guess I'm like, so Slay says sometimes the time is an issue and the time between sessions too. So you mean therapy sessions?
Yeah, that was about therapy.
Okay. Yeah. Oh my God, I was researching this, and they said that some people have to wait for 6 months to a year to book help sessions. Like, what? Do you know how much can happen in someone's life in that time? That's ridiculous. I don't know, man. Juju says, might also be that the lies you come up with end up convincing yourself and end up in denial. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes, we have been. I've been there. I've been there, man.
It's one of the 5 stages of grief.
Denial, for sure. And Juju says, especially in teens, there's a need to belong, and being LGBT disrupts the feelings of belonging. Oh, 100%. Especially for someone growing up in the 90s, when, like, nowadays, at least there's a conversation. I remember when I was growing up, I didn't even know it existed. Like, it wasn't even a thing. It wasn't talked about at all. Slay says, I think I just avoided thinking about suicidal thoughts really hard. Sometimes when I see myself, I feel like you can see the numbness and effort look on me. The effort look on me. Like I seem so still from the outside. Kind of makes me wonder how much improvement seems foreign. Like if I'm feeling more outgoing, I have to stop and wonder if I'm faking that. Oh God, I've been there. Also, my mother had been hospitalized with mental health complications a lot throughout my life. I wonder if that made me try to keep numb to avoid that. I think the part of being denial, and also like, is it called imposter syndrome? I don't know if it's the one where like you have to question if you being you is the real you. Because that's what's happening with Slay. Like he said, when he feels outgoing, he has to question, like, is that truly me or am I faking it so that I don't end up with mental health complications? That's tough. I don't know how to explain that, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think that's imposter syndrome, but I don't know what it is.
What it is, yeah. Okay, so it's not imposter syndrome.
Because imposter syndrome, I think, is more like when you think of yourself as like not qualified. Although, like, you know, for example, you're like a live streamer, but you're like, oh, but I've only been doing it for like this long. Am I really qualified to talk on this? It's more of that type
like
of thing.
Self-sabotaging.
Yeah. They feel like they're an imposter and they don't have the confidence or the self-esteem to actually talk about what they're talking about.
Oh, good to know. I just learned something. Thank you. I didn't know that. And
thanks, Google.
Yeah, thank you. Juju says there's still homophobia among teens, and even if it's not the case, it's often just ignored. Since it's a visible difference, an absence of acceptance makes it appear as taboo. Yeah, unfortunately, that is still the reality, and it's very, very unfortunate. and it's very unfortunate, actually, and disgusting that hate crimes still exist. That should have been a thing. That should have been a thing that should have like never happened. But it should have been a thing of the past because it did happen, and it should have been like done. But in 2020, the fact that we're still having hate crimes, that's a problem.
Yeah, a lot of states like don't have anti-hate crime laws in the
I
US.
know. I talked about this last time on my Real Talk. It's shocking. So many defense mechanisms we sometimes don't even realize. Ain't that the truth? Like our walls.
Des Moines makes a really good point.
Hi, Jeremy. Okay, I am. Sorry, Rikoko said, I wonder how much of our productivity culture affects suicide rates when someone older than 45. Oh, a lot. I think the stat was like in the billions in terms of productivity loss. Definitely a contributing factor. It does seem like the timeline mentality is very detrimental, even with the people who say getting older is no problem. Just hustle seems to make people feel bad for not being productive every day. That too. And Des Moines says we have the largest homeless numbers as well. Yes, and homelessness, actually, I through my research, I found that it's tied to substance abuse and alcohol addictions and a lot of other addictions, which is a part of mental illness, which requires assistance to recover from, and which further implies that we need, you guys, and Canada needs additional funding for dealing with these cases.
Yeah, I feel like we definitely need more of an open dialogue with our
100%.
governments to be like, hey, these people need more help. We need more assistance for people who are have the addictions, have the the mental illnesses that we talked about, like schizophrenia, dementia, and all of those, like bipolar, all of that. We need more help with that.
Yeah,
Else we're just gonna have a country or countries full of like homeless people who are off medication that may need medication to help them survive and function.
Yep.
And instead we're just throwing them on the streets.
Yeah, because they're seen as disposable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also very much like again, socioeconomic thing,
Yep.
like government's lack of support in certain areas and neighborhoods, and history of racism in the United States.
Yeah,
and beyond.
exactly, right.
I have a wonderful little anecdote about how my hometown, it's very white, it's very middle class, upper, it's very fancy-ish. Let's say fancy-ish. So we have 0 homeless people. You want to know why? Because the police will take the homeless person down out of that city and drop them off somewhere else. Fun fact, I've seen it happen multiple times. They will just take the unwanted person, and instead of taking them to a hospital, taking them to a place, they just dump them over.
Oh my God, not our problem, basically, is what that's saying, not our problem.
Here, let's go. I've seen it happen multiple times. I'm just like, what are you doing? Send them off to send them to get help.
The help that they need. Oh my God.
If you want 50 of them, at least throw them into a cell just to maintain them for a second, so they can then have a doctor come in and give an evaluation, then take them off. But no, we don't have the right healthcare for that to give them the proper treatments or anything. We just throw them off to a beach somewhere off 10 miles away from us.
Because they don't care. Because they really don't care.
They don't care. They care about the perception of what that city is.
Their stat. They want their stat on point.
Yeah.
Des Moines says 22 veterans commit suicide a day as well. We have no real support for our vets that are coming home. As a big one as well. Yes, when I was doing my research on the states, I saw that I think one of the biggest groups that go follow through with committing suicide are vets. And one of the mental illnesses that I saw in the research was PTSD. And that's something that's not treated. It's not taken seriously. You're almost told here, you came from a traumatic experience, function in society as if you never had this traumatic experience and figure it out. Which, if anyone has had any kind of traumatic experience, knows that you almost always need some kind of extra assistance to gather your thoughts, process your emotions, talk about what exactly you're feeling, understand what you're feeling, and then heal pick up the pieces and then maybe reintegrate in your life of work and school, family, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it. Yep, doozy of trauma. No benefits for vets. Exactly. I was homeless for 2 years. When I came home, it was not fun. Oh God, I can imagine. I've seen more than one homeless person in my town still wearing their hospital bracelet. Sorry, what does that mean? That they were from the hospital?
Like maybe someone who was sent to the hospital, but then they're just like homeless again, you know, where there's no like ongoing support. So maybe even if there was, you
At
know,
one point.
someone, there was like, you know, they went and whatever, got a little, I don't know, nutrition or whatever for
You got
a
like
day.
30 days of help, and then they kick you out because they need to fill
Yeah.
beds.
Got
That I
it.
don't think
I've
about.
seen that too.
Oh, the filling beds thing, the not enough beds thing, that's a huge problem, even in Canada. And we have, our population is way smaller because we are smaller than you guys, but if it's a problem here, it's definitely a problem in the States.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Jamie says, my father is career Canadian military. He has full on PTSD, but will never admit it. And that's another thing. The culture around trauma and mental health and mental illnesses is still developing. Like, the culture around it is so negative. It's so stigmatized, which we will get into later. But that's one of the reasons I think that's contributing to these suicide rates, to people who are, you know, losing their mind, and because they're not receiving the help that they need and the care that they need. And again, this is such a good segue into our next topic, which is an interesting stat that I found of the percentage of overall health spending that's allocated to mental health is only 7.2% in Canada. And I couldn't find something as specific for the States, but what I did find is in the fiscal year of 2018, the president's budget provides $3.9 billion for the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, which is a reduction of $399 million below what they received in 2017. And just to get an idea of what that 3.9 is supposed to go to, it's to focus on addressing the nation's opioid crisis, expanding suicide prevention efforts, which we see as a problem, and we need those suicide prevention efforts, and addressing serious mental illnesses. And we see by the stats that there are 1 in 5, I think it said, no, in the States, almost half of adults will experience a mental illness during their lifetime. That's almost half, guys. Almost half of the population. And look at their funding. Same with Canada. We're no better. 1 in 5 people in a given year in Canada will experience some kind of mental health problem or illness. And how much are we putting towards that? 7.2% of the healthcare funding.
Yeah, and if you think about it, like 3.99 billion sounds like a lot, but that's like $10 a person. Literally, there's 382 million people in the U.S. Times that by 10.
You get like one pill. Yay!
Yeah, you get $10 per person a year. There are literally, we always have to make every talk intersectional, but there are literally, like the police force just in New York City gets paid more than, like their budget is more than 3.99 billion.
Yes.
It's like 7 billion or something, like
Yes.
something crazy. So a police force for one city gets more money than the whole country of 380 million people. Interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah, and the funding's actually gone down, right?
And the
according
funding's
to the
gone down
stats,
by like 10% or whatever.
because apparently everyone's healing and being so much more healthier, and our like average mental health is awesome, while suicide rates are still, you know, like what was it, 400 every day or something like that, or 300. It makes no sense. It actually makes no sense. Meanwhile, Australia, New Zealand, and the UK spend between 10 to 14% of their overall health budget on mental health. So clearly there's some countries that are doing it a little better than us, but I don't understand why, like, especially the States. Like, States is pretty big, and I think the States is bigger than New Zealand and UK.
New Zealand,
if I'm not
okay, New
mistaken.
Zealand is as big a like population size as Los Angeles. So there's like 4 million people there.
And they're
All
even
of
spending
New Zealand-
more.
And they're spending more on 4 million people. I mean, they got through COVID like a breeze. Okay, can I just say that? They got like through COVID like that. They went into a lockdown. They wore their masks. They did their things, and now they're done.
Yeah, I mean, the American culture is very much like, independence, guns, war, all that stuff. So, I mean, just as you can see, we
Wow.
teach men not to talk about mental health as a literal country from the top down is how that happens. It's not just a person-to-person
Household,
interaction.
right.
It's a whole country value system and also kind of a whole world value system because
Yes.
the world is run by men, unfortunately, because they've put themselves in power and they want to value more power and colonialism and war power and all of that stuff, which then less and less and less money for.
It'd be really interesting though
Thanks.
to have a head of state, like someone in the U.S., like a president, not be such a politician, and maybe like we elect like someone from a mental health organization or someone who is trained in like mental health
Okay.
over something. Like politics is so wide, like we just are like nationalism and all that stuff, but what if we had someone who is not as gung-ho about nationalism but more about
Right.
our own health and mentalness, like mentalness. Wow, I have a psych degree and I can't even say
Mental
this.
health. Our
Mental health,
Yeah.
but, like,
it's cool.
Yeah, no, I feel like it's like we do have a lot of politicians that are just based on economics or like things like that, but we've never had a president that's really been about the mental health,
Yeah.
about like or driven through that. And I would, it would be an interesting
It would be
thing to
very
see.
interesting.
It would be very interesting, but I feel like those types of people are never gonna.
Make
The
it-
system will
make it
stop
up
those
there.
people from succeeding.
Oh,
you know?
totally.
Yeah.
And that's something that would really be cool to see, though.
It would
Man,
be amazing.
I've
Yeah.
been trying to dream up an organization where the head of the organization gives a shit about their employees, invests in mental
Imagine.
health mental health programs, helps you. This is so weird. In school, I talked about this in my other real talk too. In school, in my HR degree and business degree, we talked about what's the best way to have the most productive workforce. And one of the ideas that was mentioned is help the employees achieve not only their work goals, but also their personal goals. Because if they feel like you're investing, like if you tell them the last hour of the workday, you can spend it on anything that you want, that's contributing towards your goals. So if you are trying to you're trying to lose 20 pounds as an organization, we're going to make that happen. The last hour of your day, we have a gym on site and you can work out there free of charge for that 1 hour. Like, you're investing in your employee. Yet, do businesses do that? There are very few businesses that actually invest in their company, in their employees. So it would be cool if even just, fine, you can't do the presidential bit, even just a head of a company, like, or the vast majority of heads of companies that actually gave a crap about their employees, invested in them. That would be beautiful. That would be amazing. I would love to work for a place like that, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think, again, though, I mean, not to keep making it depressing, but like if the government had more policies that incentivize that, more people would do it. And obviously, a lot of corporations have money to do those types of things, but they pretend they don't.
Yes.
But I think there would be a lot more places who would like to, but they can't afford to, you know?
Yeah.
Like maybe more mid-level places.
Which we need to. How are we gonna solve?
We got to start it somewhere. Someone has to start it somewhere. It's just a toppling of dominoes and slow but worth it process.
We need to take over the administration of a city. I think like-minded people like us, we need to
just find
run
one
it
little
on a
commune.
small scale and then slowly expand. This is how we're gonna do it.
Let me just take over Orange County. I'll be right there.
Yeah, perfect. I'll try to do Toronto. It's so big. I can't.
I'll take a nap. I'll fly out when you're done.
Okay, cool.
Come join us. It'll be great.
Oh, I missed something. Zeta says, also, hello, welcome, Zeta. I'll be interested to see if there will be any long-lasting support for healthcare workers after the COVID crisis. Being an NHS... What's NHS?
I think it's like
National Health System
service. I think it's in the UK.
Oh,
Like their
NHS.
healthcare, like the name for their healthcare.
Thank you. NHS worker myself and working on COVID wards. Wow. Shout out
Oh my
to
God.
you. That's
for your
incredible.
service.
Thank you for your service, and I pray that you have you are safe during this difficult time. With COVID patients in the UK, our support is abysmal. I'm very, very sorry to hear that, because it's an essential role that you have, an essential job that you're doing. And I do want to acknowledge you with a proper welcome. So Zeta Prime G1, thank you so much for the follow. You see that, Raven? That is you. You are now under my wing. Welcome. So let me just catch up a little bit. COVID has made evident the flaws in all our systems, and they must change. Hoping that there can be voting changes that occurs. Cough, defund the police. Cough. Ain't that the truth? Hi, Potter. You know, I know people are probably going to hate me for saying this, but I really do think that there is a silver lining in COVID. Like, for real, it has given me so much time to reflect on my life, the kind of life I want to live, the kind of person I want to be. And it really gives you time, and you're able to, I have an ant problem, and I see an ant, and I shall not let it live. Give me 1 second. Oh my God, where is it? Ugh. Okay. Say no to violence, but you have to take care of these ants. So, as I was saying, I do think that there is a silver lining in COVID, and we have gotten a chance to kind of pause and just look at what's happening around the world, and really look more than just our lives, and really focus on what's happening around the world, all of these terrible things that are happening. At least for me, that's how I feel, because I'm like so out of the news. I don't focus on Twitter. I don't do any of that, especially if I was like living in my work life, rush. But like, I've definitely become more aware of what's happening around the world. Also, hi, Potter. Yeah, much bigger than the UK. Yeah, and you guys are still doing so much more than Canada and the US by moving to New Zealand. So I've heard. New Zealand is amazing. So I would love to eventually go there. That would be awesome. Juju says, simple cycle. Nigher effort is put in treatment/prevention. People are better. We don't see a need for funding. Reduce funding. People deteriorate. Yeah. Yeah. The majority of our politicians are career politicians, which was never supposed to be the case. It's supposed to be a side job. Oh, meaning being a politician is their career. Meanwhile, it's supposed to be a side job. Okay, interesting. I see what you're saying. Zeta says, I don't know how it is in the other countries, but most of our UK mental health care is charity services. There isn't really any effective, robust government funding mental health support system. There is one, but it's woeful, and getting any support, you have to jump through hoops. And probably there's a lineup, I'm sure, of people.
Yes, one of my mods was like trying to get help from the NHS and get therapy, and they were like literally making her situation worse by like sending her on to different therapists. The therapists that they were having her see were not good matches for her. And she, was really in need and looking for it. And, luckily she was able to kind of just like get through it on her own, but I'm sure that's not the case for everyone.
No. And one of my friends actually showed me the applications. He's like, these are the this is the length of the application for getting a gun license in the US, and this is the amount of paperwork I need to do to just like seek medical help, like healthcare. It's like a stack. So that kind of just shows you the priorities, right? Like as Kisos was saying, not to shit on the States, but like the culture in the States.
Oh, please go ahead.
Is like gun control and being like patriotism and like all of that, and they're like worried about keeping their flags, and like that's the kind of stuff that they're worried about, right? And keeping statues up, and they shouldn't be taken down, but like the things that actually matter are not being focused on. Literally, guys, it was like a 2-page document or something for gun license, and it was scary because this person like really needed help, and my first instinct was like, why are you looking at a gun license? Because like they were at that stage where they were like, so it's almost encouraging people who are seeking this assistance, like this is so much easier and it's legal. Why? And by the way, stats showed that most of the suicides that were committed in the States by guns. right? That's no surprise, guys. That is no surprise. So that's pretty scary. Pretty scary. Hi, Ray Toric. Ray says, people, citizens, and employees are expendable as long as they make me money. I don't care what happens to them. U.S. power structure. It's sad, but very true. Yes, that's how they look at it. Slay says, it sounds so tough. Another streamer, Handalf, is a student nurse during this, and the only reason she's getting minimum wage during her studies is because of having to deal with COVID. Otherwise, they wouldn't have even paid. Imagine the mental health issues with all of the internship things, the stress of working for nothing. Yes. And Potter says, I can confirm New Zealand is unbelievable. Day one of visiting, I thought about moving forever. Wow. We should have a stream field trip. Juju says, I think some places have it, but there's really a need for emergency support the same way we have an ambulance. Well, I think, this actually ties into something else that I wanted to talk about, which was police contact and mental health, mental patients that have mental illnesses. It's funny that you mentioned that we should have a special service just like ambulances, and I agree with that argument in the sense that I feel like there should be a separate service for interactions with law enforcement. I do not think people in law enforcement are cut out to deal with wellness checks, to check up on people that have mental health issues, that are mentally unstable or whatever the case is, because they deal with them as if they are a regular part of the population and they treat everybody the same. They're not given adequate training of how to approach someone who's having a panic attack, who might have schizophrenia, who might have whatever other kind of issues that they might be having. And the stats showed that the number of contacts with police in Canada that involve someone with a mental illness or a substance abuse disorder is 1 in 5, guys. That's 20. I don't know how that stat translates into the whole picture, but 1 in 5. That's a big number. And I want to show you guys a very disturbing video. It's a case that happened in January in BC, so it's in Canada, but it's a case of a student, a nursing student. She was having a panic attack. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but it was a case that happened in Canada. She had a panic attack. Police was called on her when she was in contact with her boyfriend. Then she stopped responding to his texts, and he got concerned, so he called emergency services, and they dispatched one officer to her place. And this officer is in no way equipped to handle the situation. I'm just going to show the video, and just a heads up, it is very, very unfortunate what happens to this person. So it starts off with a camera. Sorry, oh, you guys can't hear it, right? So the this was only captured on we only have footage because the apartment building, I think, had a camera. So imagine how much of this goes undocumented. This is probably happening all over the world and we don't even know about it. So she goes in to do the wellness check. She handcuffs the girl, okay, drags her across the hallway on a dirty floor. And anyone who has skid their face against a rug knows the rug burn that you get from that, right? Look at how far she dragged her. Look at this. Dragged her and by the way, hands, I want you all to do this. How high do your arms go? So imagine how painful that is. Look at that. This is real footage of an RCMP officer dragging her down. She gets her, I don't know if she took stairs or what happened. Okay, she ends up getting her somewhere in the lobby. How humiliating is this? Dragging her across the floor. And at one point, look at how long this video is. 7 minutes. Eventually, it gets to a point where she puts her foot on her, I think it's on her neck. And I don't know what she's saying to her. I don't know what is happening. But this girl is already handcuffed, okay? And this is someone who was having a panic attack. like she's crying clearly, she's distraught. I don't remember where the part was where she had her foot, but you guys saw it. It happened in this video. She had her foot on this person's neck, and this is someone who was having a panic attack. These are the kinds of people that are sent to do wellness checks on people who have mental health issues, who have mental illnesses. And it's really concerning because this is just one incident that was caught on camera. And there are multiple. There was another case in Toronto. Was it Toronto? Yeah, it was Toronto, I think. Just a month back, a guy had schizophrenia, and the police took a ladder, climbed into his balcony, broke down the door, and tased him. He was a 65-year-old man. So a taser already takes him down. Ain't nobody needs to get shot. Shot him like 4 times when he was already on the ground, and he died. And this man was suffering from a mental health illness. He had schizophrenia. Let me tell you, even if you don't have schizophrenia and you see a random person I think they were in plain clothes too, coming in your balcony, you're gonna panic. Are you not gonna panic?
That's like so extremely triggering and frightening.
That is frightening. That is terrifying.
Like 65 years old.
He's
like,
already.
You don't know the health conditions. You don't know how his heart's going to react to a taser.
And they were told that he had schizophrenia beforehand. And I think what had happened is the family had evacuated, or they got everyone to evacuate, so it was just him in the house. So you're telling me 3 police officers can't take on one guy, right? And you got to use alternative routes, which is through the balcony, which is terrifying, and then tase him and then shoot him 3 times. It's really, really, really concerning that this many people. It's really concerning that this many people have experiences like this, and most of them, I think, don't go very, very positively. Have you guys heard of any? Sorry, go ahead, Kisos.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I feel like they always come from the cops that are coming. See, I hadn't really heard of wellness checks until a couple years ago, but when I did hear of it, I always pictured it as not a cop coming. That was never my first thought when I heard of them. I was like, oh, they would send, a therapist equivalent type of person.
Yes.
I mean, I get that maybe in some situations you might need to have someone who knows some sort of self-defense, but I feel like it really is a case-by-case basis. There was like a friend that one of my friends was concerned about. It was like a mutual friend, and they wanted to do a wellness check, and I was like, okay, like keep me posted, because we were like concerned for her safety. And then after hearing about, I think everything was fine, but I think after hearing about like that wellness checks are actually like police officers, it's like, okay, that is, like you said, someone who is like going through it mentally might not be as calm as they usually are, might be a little bit more aggressive, and you need someone who's not going to respond to aggression with aggression. You need someone who can de-escalate. It's like, you're not going to bring an aggressive cop to a hostage situation, because you need
a de-escalation,
someone who can communicate.
Yeah.
And just like this, you need someone who can communicate. So, I mean, yeah, it's really terrifying that we're sending, I know in the US, especially in the last month, it's come more into the mainstream of like talking about defunding the police and how that means, breaking it down into more individual parts, like trained professionals in community de-escalation, in mental health de-escalation, in all of these different things. So, I mean, definitely should not be cops, because they don't know what they're doing.
They're always angry. And they are always angry. And like, as much as I don't want to admit that I'm afraid, I automatically get on edge when I see a cop. I haven't done anything wrong. I haven't hurt anybody. I'm not like doing anything illegal, but automatically I tense up when I see a police officer. And I think it's less a me problem, and it's more that I know that they are unfortunately above the law, and they can get away with anything. They can pin stuff on me. They have been situations where police officers have planted evidence. They have just played it off like I thought they were a threat. Or let's just say, God forbid, there's an altercation, right? And like there's an innocent person and they get shot. who are they going to believe? The dead person who can't defend themselves and speak for them, or the person who is still alive and saying that this person was a threat? They were talking about all these kinds of things. They were talking about harming me. They were talking about all these people they've killed. What, they could make up anything about you. So I think that's what goes through my mind. Like, let me just do what they say. Let me not make eye contact. Let me be extra good and polite and submissive so that I don't get in trouble with them. And so imagine, and this is me being like a person with like the right mind. I'm not having a panic attack or anything. When you're having a panic attack, do you want to see a police officer knocking at your door and coming into, by the way, they knock at your door, by the way, and they just walk in. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced a cop coming over to your place, but they literally knock and they just walk in. Like, they don't do this whole standing outside, talking from a distance. Like, they're very confrontational. So I think that's the last thing you want when you're having a panic attack, or any kind of attack, really.
Yeah.
God, no. Yeah. Have you heard any stories? Yeah, I can.
I don't have any personal stories about wellness checks or anything like that. But like, when I was working on my degree and we were talking about like wellness checks, I always assumed, and this is just maybe naivety of me, but I always assumed it was like an EMP with a social worker coming, because you never know, like maybe a cop in citizen, like, you know, like not in full dress, but just like just a cop like there just to make sure. Yep. I thought it was very casual, like we're coming in to check, not like super aggressive, like Reno 911 kind of like, or cops kind of just bashing down the doors or opening the doors, and because that doesn't give a sense of security to someone who's going through something. And like I never really like thought of it more. I was just like, yeah, no, it has to be a cop, an EMP, and some type of therapist to really deduce the situation that's going on in a wellness check.
Yeah, I actually really like that you mentioned that they could be in plain clothes. I didn't think of that, but I think that would really help if you are choosing to send a police officer, which, yes, sometimes someone who is unwell could pull a knife, pull a weapon, whatever that is. Yeah. So I am not taking that away from us as a possibility. So yes, I think there is a need for some kind of law enforcement, but I don't think they should be the only one being sent. I think they should kind of like hover around, but the main talking and addressing of the situation should be done by a healthcare professional that is trained and skilled and has the emotional intelligence and the de-escalation techniques that have been taught to them and trained to deal with situations like this. Listen, police officers don't de-escalate, okay? They could even take a situation that's not even up here and bring it up here. So I think that's the last person that should be sent to these wellness checks, really, especially how prevalent mental health issues are and mental illnesses are. You would not want your loved one who is suffering from any of these things to be dealt with by a police officer. So I don't know how we can make these policies change. And by the way, that RCMP officer, she has been put on administrative duties since the incident. That's the punishment that you're gonna get.
Pushing papers after she pushed someone down a flight of stairs, after she dragged someone down a whole room of carpet
and put her foot on her neck.
Yeah,
like this is the kind of stuff what I mean when I say police officers can get away with anything, guys. She still has a job. She still has a steady income. She has not been demoted, but like there are no repercussions. She's not even gone to jail for assault. Like, that's assault. The woman was already handcuffed. What kind of threat is she posing to you? I don't understand.
All she really needed was to call backup to get like a stretcher or something.
Yes.
Just like, hey, you're going through it, and you may have caused some, like, even if there was justifiable cause for her to be handcuffed or something that we didn't see inside the house. Like, there's something that could have happened that justified or warranted that, but maybe there isn't. But wouldn't you have called for backup? Wouldn't you have called for help to have them bring someone out instead of dragging them? Like, I don't see where it was needed for her to, like, she could have just
do all that. Like, no.
Just have her sitting in her house, have someone else come, they lead her down hand in hand, have her walking, also maybe put a shirt on because that was a little disgraceful.
Yes.
But like,
agreed. Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I agree. And especially if you were able to get her handcuffed, that means you could literally sit her against a wall or have her facing a wall. Or, yes, if you, I know that's a policy too, where they have you facing like the pavement or whatever. Like, so face down, hands behind your back until you call for backup. And then you get someone who is able to like talk her down, because it seems like she was just getting more.
And did you see the bruises on her arm? And
No,
there was
I
like it looked like
didn't.
there was bruises on her arm when she lifted her up in the lobby area.
Oh my God. Well, I wouldn't be surprised
Yeah,
with how she was handling her. It was like an animal.
Mhm.
Like an
it
animal.
was very rough. It
Yes.
was very, very rough.
That was very disturbing. When I saw that video, I was like, this can't be serious. And how is she living with herself? This happened in January, guys. Imagine the conscience you need to not turn yourself in. Like, you just live with it, doing that to somebody. And imagine it wasn't caught on camera. So imagine
Yeah.
how much is not caught on camera. So all these people out here who are like, why are you taking a video? I saw this sidetrack, but listen, it's important to talk about. I saw this video. Portland? I think it's a Portland video. Apparently, like, police officers are going around kidnapping people or something.
Yeah,
which
it's
is-
like federal military people. It's not even the police. Like the literal governor and mayor of the city are like, "Hey, can you stop? We're handling it fine. You're making it worse." And the Trump isn't listening, and there's like literal police people abducting people. And they don't have like badge numbers. They're in unmarked cars.
It's terrifying, guys. I saw a video about it, and people in the comments, I can't believe that they were saying this. They were like, I don't understand why you're not, why are you videotaping and why are you not fighting back? And it's like, you do understand that these are like armed people, right? And you're like, what, one or two people against 4 or 5 of these people who are literally saying, if you follow us, we will shoot you and we will shoot that person. This is terrifying, guys. This is real life stuff that's happening out there. Definitely open up your eyes. Definitely educate yourself about what's happening. Twitter is definitely a really good resource because there are uncut, unfiltered things on there that I've never been exposed to in my life. And I've like learned so much in the last few months that I haven't learned in a very long time. And for those of you who think like, why are they videotaping? It's to get some kind of proof, because let me tell you, if someone came out and said like police are abducting people, most of us wouldn't believe them, right? Most of us would be like, they crazy. But when you have it on proof, there's at least some way. That's how people get their badge numbers identified. That's how people get like names of people, names of Karens, or names of people who are disrespectful, spitting on people. We had an incident in Canada where a guy was riding a bike past a couple and he yelled a racial slur at them and spat at them. And the only reason they were able to track down this guy is because someone took a video of it. So for all people who are hating on people who are taking videos, it's important. It is important for proof, for tracking down people, for just some kind of escalation to come out of it. So I did want to mention that. The Des, hello. Thank you for being here. Says mental health is still stigmatized in Black community in the USA and only help a lot of use, and they only help a lot of us are offered is to just go to church and pray on it. Interesting. RavenCon 2020. Listen, if I had the money to go to New Zealand, I'd do it, man. And community can help, but only to right, exactly, right. For those of you who, or for those of us who are religious or follow some kind of spiritual path, or a religious path, like yes, praying is important and praying helps, but there is also, well, at least what I'm told in my religion is that you're supposed to do your part too, and your part is seeking the help that is available in the country that you're living or the place that you're living. So God does help you, but it's important to also take advantage of the resources that are there. However, I understand at the same time that there are a lot of people who don't have access to these resources. They don't have the funding for these resources. They don't have the means to have access to these resources. And that actually is a great segue to our next point, which is a stat that I found that says Canadians in lowest income group are 3 to 4 times more likely than those of a higher income group to report poor or fair mental health. And the percentage of crime, so that I found was completely understandable, that if you don't have enough money to have a means to live, you are not going to have the best mental health, right?
Yeah.
Stress and all of that, making ends meet. And that in turn is going to could contribute, I think, to substance abuse, which the statistics did show. But what I found interesting is that there wasn't a correlation between economic status and alcohol abuse. That was interesting, but there was a correlation between economic status and substance abuse. So if you have a lower economic status, or you know you're of the lower income, you're more likely to have substance abuse issues, but not for alcohol abuse. And I thought that was really interesting. I wonder why that is. I don't know why.
I was gonna say that is really interesting. It could have to do with, at least in the US, I'm no expert on this, but I know that they're literally like the opioid crisis and stuff. Some of that is literally pharmaceutical companies preying on lower income areas and stuff like that.
So what is the crisis, if you don't mind me asking? Like, what is opioid?
So it's kind of, I think, again, I'm no expert at all.
Right.
But I think it has to do with, like, it's related to heroin in a way. Like, different pieces of that are, like, similarly addictive, similar chemical structures, something like that. And, yeah, especially in, like, the Midwest, there's a lot of, like, pharmaceutical companies, I think, that were, like, prescribing certain drugs that had, like, opioid things in them, and people would get addicted to them. And the government was just like turning a blind eye to it because they're making money, the pharmaceutical companies making money,
because they want more of it, like the people want more of it,
money,
so they're getting
okay, and
got it.
They don't care to of course support certain communities. What's up, Kent?
So opium, it's opioids are basically opium, and like they're from the poppy plant, and like opioids are found in like Oxycontin and Vicodin
I know about that
and fentanyl and heroin too. It's ridiculous.
And these are things that were being put in medicine and being given to people to get them addicted, and then they continue buying it. They keep getting money, like the companies getting money. Yeah,
because like opioids are basically painkillers, but like they can be treated as super painkillers like morphine, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, there was a documentary on Netflix. I forgot what it was called, but it's something about pharmacists, and it was telling the story of like a very specific area, and
do you remember
opioid addiction and stuff. I don't. Something about pharmacist.
Let me Google that. So
pharmacist opioid Netflix. I'm sure you'll find it. Something like that.
Was it a documentary?
Yeah, it was a documentary. It starts out kind of as like this family story about their son who died, and then it turns into this whole.
It's called The Pharmacist.
Is it called The
Pharmacist?
The Pharmacist.
Yeah. So I mean,
Netflix.
Again, that's just a snapshot. The Pharmacist on Netflix. That's just a snapshot of one area. Again, I don't know much about this, but it's a snapshot of one area, and it made a lot of sense to me. It seemed to be backed up by fact and examples and things like that. So it definitely shined a light on how, you know, the government does a lot of things and experiments in different ways to make money, and how, you know, politicians have interest in it because, again, these pharmaceutical companies are funding their campaigns. So they look the other way, let it happen, and they try to keep it in areas, you know, that are not their voter base, that maybe are people of color who are more liberal. So.
Oh my God. It's a bigger game, man. It's a bigger
the US,
game.
Baby. Welcome
it's a bigger game. It is so much bigger than us. Wow. It's like not shocking, but it's disgusting, right? That like we live in a world like that is so fueled by money.
And it's scary how a lot of these things, they're so hidden. We'll never know.
Yes.
And because of the internet, we know.
Yep. Yeah. It's so true. So true. I mean, like all of this stuff, even like backtracking to the BLM, all of these videos that are coming out, like we only have footage because we have cell phones and we have things like that. But this has been going on for so long, so many years. And all those people that suffered that will probably never get justice because there's just no proof that it ever happened. And people are living with their dirty secrets of what they did with people, what they did to people, that we'll just never know. And it's very sad and very scary. Very, very, very scary. I also wanted to say that, you know how people say like money buys happiness. I do want to mention that I think money buys a comfortable life, but I don't think that money truly buys happiness. And I think by happiness, we might people mistake that for contentment. I think contentment is so much deeper than that, and it does not buy that. So I did want to mention that because the statistics just does say that lower income and worse, and you have more mental health issues, and the opposite to that is like, oh, okay, that means people who are more wealthy like don't experience mental health issues as much. I don't think that's the case. I just think that it's masked because they have less like stress in terms of money and spending and like, where am I going to get money for school from? Where am I going to get money for the house from? Like that stress is taken down, but I think they could still have like emotional instabilities and issues that are like of the mind and of the heart and the soul. So I do want to make that differentiation.
Yeah, I do think that mental health issues and mental health in general transcends kind of economic purposes, just because 100%. Like we all are going through something, and no matter if you're like 1% or you're like bottom like 100% of economical status, like we're all going through something, and like it's okay to go through something and try to work on it. Yeah, I don't know.
And if you're not going through something and you have that mentality of like, I just don't let things get to me because I can't do anything about it, so what's the point of stressing? That's completely fine if that's what works for you. But then by that same token, you shouldn't be looking down on people that do have mental health issues and maybe might need the help. And you shouldn't be that person who's saying, well, just get over it. Like I do that. Why can't you do that? Everyone's
just
different.
Get over it.
Everyone's different.
Oh my god, my favorite thing is like I suffer from like major anxieties, right? And then they're like, why are you so anxious? I'm like, and they're like, just don't be anxious. I'm like, oh, just don't be anxious.
Oh my god.
Or like, why are you anxious? I'm like, I have anxiety. I don't know why I'm fucking anxious right now.
I'm just anxious, right?
I'm just like, fuck.
It's like the times when you're stressed out and people are just like, don't stress. Like, don't be stressed.
Yeah, don't stress. You're fine.
If I knew how to not be stressed, I wouldn't be stressed then, right? Oh my god. I have I talked about this last week as well. I have a kidney condition, and anytime I get super stressed, like I get tears in my kidney and red blood cells like leak out of because my kidneys are bleeding, and it comes in my urine, so like I can actually see it's like red, it's like blood. But when I talked to the doctor about it, he was like, just don't be stressed, just don't stress and you'll be fine. Like, this is medical advice, guys.
I was gonna say, especially like when that's happening, it probably makes you stress out more because now you're like, oh god, I'm stressed because I'm stressed.
Yes. How am I supposed to not be stressed when like every time I go pee? But like I'm so grateful and so blessed, like that hasn't happened to me for a very long time. So luckily I haven't gotten stressed to that extreme where it's happened. But when it was happening to me, I think the worst thing that the doctor said was, are you sure you're not having your period? Are you sure? And I'm like, I was raging on my
spoiler
inside.
alert, the doctor was a man. You don't even have to ask.
Spoiler alert, yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, oh, I guess I've been experiencing my period for how many years, and I don't know the difference between blood in my urine as opposed to my period. Blew my mind. But
oh my god, that makes me so mad.
I was mad. I was like, and this is a specialist, guys. This was the specialist I went to. But yeah, the whole don't stress thing, guys, I'm really sorry if you have people like that in your life. They will just never understand. I would encourage you to bite your tongue a little bit and try to explain to them. They get one chance. They get one chance of the whole, like Suga said this one thing that I will like, it's such a beautiful thing. It's okay to be ignorant. It's not okay to stay ignorant. Right? So they're ignorant. They say things like, just don't stress. Just don't be anxious. They get one chance to be ignorant. You use that opportunity as an educational opportunity. You talk to them, you explain to them what you have, what you're dealing with, blah, blah, blah. And if they still hit you with that shit, that's a them problem. And then you take whatever action necessary, whether you want to continue being friends with them, whatever it is. But they get one chance to be ignorant. That's it. That's my rule.
Yeah. And you decide who is worthy of that one chance, because you don't have to give one chance to everyone.
Exactly. That's like
Exactly.
it's the same thing as I always say this on my stream as well. The pronouns, like if people I get one chance to mess up, right? Because well, it's not really a mess up. It's more like I'm just using a pronoun that I am like unconsciously attributing to you, but it's nice if you give me that opportunity to explain to me that, like, listen, hey, I go by him, he, him, or she, her, right? And then once you tell me that, now I have the opportunity to like consciously be like, oh sure, I gotta make sure I use the right pronoun. But I feel like if I'm constantly going against that, that's not ignorance anymore. Like, I'm choosing to be ignorant. Like, that's a me problem. And then you gotta like either cut me out or talk to me, whatever it is. But I feel like I've seen that a lot with pronouns. Like, people will tell the person how they want to be addressed, and the person will continue to address them in the way that they feel like they should address them. It's different if you mess up. Like, I've had situations where I was just like, oh my gosh, she's so amazing, and then someone in chat is like, it's a him. So I was like, oh shoot, I'm really sorry. And then I will catch myself. I'll be like, him or he, and I would urge people to forgive me for doing that. But I think it's different when you're like blatantly ignorant and you're like constantly drilling into the incorrect pronoun.
Yeah, you can usually tell if someone in any, whether it's pronouns or whatever, you can tell if someone is like genuine and making a mistake, even if it's, a couple extra times.
Right.
But yeah, again, you don't have to give everyone those chances.
100%.
Oh my god. So like my roommate, I knew them as a she before, and the transition from she to he was literally the hardest thing for me.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because like I've known them so long.
Yeah.
Like I've known them for like 7 to 10 years. And
wow.
So like I've known her, but like it took me like a week to like fully ingrain it.
That's still like, amazing. Wow.
It was rough. Not on me, but I felt like it was rough on him, because like that I saw that like every time I said, oh, her, and I was like, oh yeah. Shit, my bad. But yeah, now it's just weird saying her.
Were they understanding?
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay.
Totally.
Yeah, I think that's like, really, really important.
And I was going to say, something that we haven't really talked about is making sure that we are also thinking about other people's mental health and the ways that we can like take responsibility. Ooh. Make sure that we're addressing people the way they want to be addressed. Make sure that we're not,
contributing to them. Yeah.
Making sure that, we're giving them the space they need, communicating with people the way they prefer to be communicated with, and doing all those things, because you don't want to contribute negatively to someone else's mental health, especially if you've been going through mental issues. You know how that feels. So you have to make sure you're understanding and treating people.
Okay.
I love that. Let's use that as a conversation topic. What do you what are maybe like some things that you would recommend or suggest to people, or tips for people of how they can not contribute negatively to someone's mental health? I think this is a great takeaway, guys. If there's anything you take away from the stream, this is definitely it right here.
Yeah, I think it's easier than it sounds. I mean, and it's just like with any relationship, with a love relationship, friend relationship, it's about listening. It's about just, being a good person. I mean, a lot of the things that stress me out is seeing like homophobic comments or racist comments, whether they're directed at me or not, misogynistic comments, anything like that. So don't be a bigot. Step one. But don't assume, also really important, is don't assume that you're a quote unquote good person. I like to say that none of us are necessarily good people.
I love that.
Because we can all have like microaggressions or things that maybe, again, that we were ignorant to.
Yes.
And it's about the process, like Raven said, is you might be ignorant, but don't stay ignorant.
Yeah.
Try to surround yourself with multiple people. Make sure that you're listening to different perspectives, and make sure that you are not pressuring people. Make sure that you're asking for consent, not just when it comes to sex, but when it comes to, everything, like hanging out with someone, and
Yeah.
not pressuring people to do things, because again, people get stressed about a lot of things.
Yeah.
You don't want to add to that plate.
Yeah, I really like that. And to also relate that to the gaming world, don't be that person that's really toxic on mic. I get it. It's just a game. I shouldn't take it seriously. But lately I've had some very negative experiences playing Valorant, especially as soon as they hear my voice and they're like, oh, it's a girl. And then they just go on and on. And I understand that, yes, I could mute them. But to get to that stage where, like, they have to say something, right, for me to get upset and then, like, mute them. And it's usually just, like, really mean comments. And they're just really... just not nice. And, like, unfortunately, I am a sensitive person, so I understand it's a game, but at the same time, words hurt. Like, words still hurt me, and I don't think there's anything wrong in that. More people will take the approach of, like, you should get a thicker skin, but I take the approach of, like, why don't you encourage people to be nicer and kinder?
Right.
Like, why aren't you focusing on that problem and making me the problem, that I'm too sensitive, I need to have a thicker skin? No, you need to be telling those people to not be like that. And I think this is a whole separate topic, but I think humor is so often distasteful, and the wrong things are taught to be funny. And I don't know where that comes from, but apparently being toxic and talking down, especially to women or to any minority, any marginalized group, is funny. And I don't know where we can nip that in the butt. I don't know where. Is it the home? Is it school? Is it a certain age? Like, I don't know. I'm still figuring that out, a separate talk. But that's got to stop too. I feel like that can definitely contribute to someone's mental health. Like, if you say something as a joke and then they get offended by it, and you can clearly see that they're offended by it, or they address it to you and you hit them with the, why are you so sensitive? Like, it's not that big of a deal. You know I care about you. It was just a joke. I've heard that so much. Yeah, I've heard that so much.
But yeah, see, that doesn't take responsibility.
No.
Like, if you meant it as a joke, you could say, like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I meant that as a joke. I see it wasn't funny to you. Maybe it's not funny to anyone, and I won't say it anymore.
Done.
You know? It's one of the things we have to put your pride aside.
Done. And then that's it. That, honestly, if someone said that to me, like, listen, Raven, I'm so sorry I hurt your feelings. I honestly meant that as a joke. I didn't even think that it would upset you, and I'm so sorry that it did. I will not say that again. I'm not the type of person to, like, harp. I would just be like, okay, cool. Let's just move forward. Please don't do that again. Done. Move forward. And I think that's so important, and it's not, like, stressed enough that humor is, like, who is it funny to? If it's not funny to the person that you're directing it to, then it's not really funny, in my opinion.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Any tips that you have, Kent?
Honestly, just listen and, like, see the, like, if you're with a person or with a group of people, look at their body language, look at if they're feeling comfortable, and just really listen to them. It's like, you don't know, like, people may be super comfortable with you, like, with their eyes, but you can see, like, in their, like, how their body language, like, just always, like, actively listen and not wait. Like, just actively listen and look at their body language. That's always something that I do, like, when I'm out.
Yes.
It's like, I'm a huge introvert, so I don't know what I say or what I do that could, like, you know, just be weird or whatever. So I always try to gauge people.
Yeah.
And, like, I look at their body language and I look at, like, did I say something stupid or something like that? Or, like, insensitive? Because, like, I never want to, but, like, sometimes I might.
We all have moments where we say something questionable and then we backtrack in our head, like, I should not have said, why did I say that?
And then 10 days later you're in the shower going, why did I say
that? I could have said any of these things and I chose that thing. Yeah, no, I
exactly.
get that. I love that you mentioned be observant. It ties in so well with this training that I'm taking right now for work, and I'm so blessed that I'm working with a place that is allowing me to take this training. It's called Indigenous Cultural Competency Training, and it's just teaching us about the indigenous population and their culture, traditions, and things like that. And one of the things that I learned that's ingrained in children in the as part of the indigenous population is they are taught to be observant. So a lot of their culture is surrounded around being observant. And they said the way where that starts is when you're a baby. You're put in a knapsack, or I guess, and when you're around nature and around the wilderness, it's an open knapsack, not like the strollers that a lot of people have, which is what I was drawing a parallel to. I was like, what do we do in like the Western world? And they said when you have your child in your back and they have it open, they're literally sponging everything around them, looking at there's just like taking it all in, hearing the interactions, watching the interactions. And babies are creepy, eh? They're like smarter than we think. They're like there's a lot going on in there. Just because they can't talk don't mean they're dumb. Like they know stuff. So I thought that was so interesting that their culture focuses so heavily on that. And then as soon as they reach, I think it's like grade school age, they start to like sit with their elders, and they are put with adults, and they listen. They just listen. They listen to the stories, they listen to traditions, they listen to their culture, they listen to like the way of life and respecting each other and nature and elders and all of this. And it's not like, oh, that's adult stuff, we don't want them to learn. It's literally like, no, you sit there, you don't fidget, you listen, you observe, you watch. And I thought that was so beautiful, because in Western culture, it's more like talk. Like the focus is on like, I gotta seem like I'm more knowledgeable. I gotta seem like I'm this. I gotta seem like this. And it's all about talking and less about listening and observing. So I think that is a great point in emotional intelligence, when you can stop yourself from speaking and just observe, like watch the body language, listen to the choice of words that people are using. People might think that that's extra, but like I really pay attention to people's word choice. And if I don't like the way something sounds, I will use that as an opportunity to be like, why did you say that? I'm sorry you had to go through that. I didn't have to go through all of these negative things. You could just say, I'm sorry you went through that. Notice how that one little bit just taken out changes the whole. So I really like the observation bit, and I think that's a great way to positively impact someone's mental health. With you observing, you'll be more likely to interact with them in a better way, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, I definitely think that as well. And
I love
yeah, I thought that was such a good point. And I wanted to end off with us talking about stigma, because I found in a 2008 study that was conducted that 46% of people thought that people used mental illness as an excuse for bad behavior. So I know that study is dated, but you best believe there are people these days that still believe that.
Oh, for sure.
Which is shocking, guys. That's almost 50% of like that group that they had used. And when I was doing research online, I read a few articles that were like, do people use mental illness as an excuse for bad behavior? And it kind of got me thinking, what do you guys think?
Go ahead, Kenneth.
No, you go first. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I feel like the only person who would use it as an excuse for bad behavior is someone who actually doesn't have a mental illness, you know? Someone who's like blaming it on that to try to get away with it, but who actually is not affected by it. That's the only time that would make sense, because, yeah, everyone else would be like, I'm sorry, I can't help it, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. That's kind of what I fully agree with that. Because, like, I have friends that I know that so do, like, they're like, I'm sorry, I'm just really this. And I'm like, are you? So, yeah, it's,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's important to differentiate. Again, it's important that we did that in the beginning, mental health and mental illness. I don't think poor mental health is an excuse for bad behavior. But mental illness is a whole different level. So I want to make that differentiation. Mental illness, I think, is a tier on its own, and I think that should be taken very seriously. And the person's not really in control anymore, that's when it becomes an illness and they need help for that. Mental health, on the other hand, is if I'm having a shitty day and I'm feeling extremely depressed, that doesn't give me the right to treat others poorly. If I'm cranky about my own life, my lack of achievements, whatever I'm going through, I'm feeling like not worthy, I'm in a self-deprecating mood, that's not an excuse to not be respectful of other people's space, not be respectful of people, say hurtful comments, and just be like, sorry, I'm having like a really bad mental health day. I don't think that's fair. Like,
sorry, I stepped in a puddle and I'm blaming you guys. I'm sorry.
It's not like, and people might think like I'm cold, but listen, I've had so many bad mental health days. But anytime I am a dick for whatever reason, I definitely make sure to like catch myself, or like shortly after go to the person and be like, I'm so sorry, that was such a shitty thing to say. There has to be accountability. You can't just be like, everyone feels sorry for me because I'm having a bad mental health day. Mental health is important, but it's within you, and you shouldn't be letting that like translate in your interactions with other people and like be punishing them for something that you're feeling. So that's my thing on that. Each other. Yeah, exactly.
You know? Like if I'm taking a bad mental health day, then I'm gonna make someone else have a bad mental health day? No, not on purpose, at least.
Right. And I don't think that's being cold. I don't think that's being dismissive. I think that's more just being accountable for your own actions and your own mood and how you're, dealing with things. I know I am extremely behind in chat, guys. Extremely behind, and I deeply apologize for that. But I'm gonna read some of the last little comments just so I can address something at least. The game is made to have communication, so oh yes. Slay says it shouldn't be on you. The game is made to have communication. So to have an automatically mute before one word is spoken for anyone is a flaw. Right, and I don't do that. Shouldn't have to mute them though. Exactly, Zeta. I believe the same thing. Having to have mute before feels like a broken part of the experience. Right. I know a lot of people say just mute them from before, but that's conforming to that culture this toxic culture that's being built instead of trying to fight against it. Centuries of cultural norms have ingrained certain forms of comedy, and that comedy has really evolved at the same pace as social norms today. Yes. I'm curious, what does your work involve? Not sure whether that's okay to ask. Unfortunately, my work doesn't involve like directly interacting with the indigenous population. I wish it did. That would be super cool. But my work is for I would say it's a strategic financial firm. And I'm not sure why the indigenous component is there, but I am not asking any questions. I am happy to learn. Like, I'm very, very happy to learn. I think that's probably come from the media. That's probably why people felt like that in 2008, because a lot of media heavy crimes were blamed on mental health. Interesting. Okay. Let's actually talk about that, because that is really an interesting point. There have been a lot of disparities, I feel, with race and mental health and crime. So when there's a white person that commits a crime, it's usually said that they had mental health issues. But as soon as it's like a Muslim person or it's someone of color, it's they just don't get that card. They're not allowed to have that card. Apparently we're not allowed to have mental health issues. Have you guys noticed that in the States too? Because I know it's like that in Canada.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
100%.
So that is a thing.
Yeah, it's like every time.
Mm-hmm.
My God. Yeah, truth and still are. Exactly. I don't think it will be easy to get that one out of popular opinion until the media stops tells emotional and mental states of those who commit heinous crimes. Right. Make voice chat a lot. Ooh. Ooh, I really like that, Juju. Oh my god, I really like that. Make voice chat an unlockable feature for proving good behavior. I love that. Listen, in League, for those of you who play League, there is a feature called the honor system. And after you finish your game, you can honor somebody for being like a communicative teammate or like a good teammate or whatever that is. And that gets you honor points. And then you like unlock the honor mastery. That's an amazing idea, Juju. That is an amazing idea. Thank you for sharing that with me. If I ever have the opportunity to be part of a gaming platform or a company or whatever in that capacity, I would love to integrate that into my work. But your stress affects your blood circulation in the kidneys, I'm guessing. I'm not sure, Zeta. Actually, no one's really gotten to explain to me how the whole what I have is called IgA nephritis. It is a rare condition, and it only gets serious in like 30% of the population. So the doctor's like, we don't have a cure for it. We just hope you're not part of the 30%. So that was that. Oh, hi, Mike. Thank you for being here, guys. Okay, well, that I was thinking more like a CSGO trust factor. Yeah, but like the familiarity that I have with something like that is League, and League is made by Riot, and Valorant is made by Riot as well. Rico says, oh, sadly so real in the US. White people are just troubled souls who deserve sympathy, while brown and black people are thugs and terrorists who don't get the same. It's so sad. Very sad. And Juju says, but the trust factor is about matching you with players with a similar trust factor. I would love that, honestly. But that brings us to a end for this real talk about mental health. Do you have any closing notes, Kent and Kisos, that you would like to say?
Well, real quick, again, I just want to say, again, make sure you take care of yourself. Make sure you take care of the people around you. Make sure you take breaks when you need to.
Yes.
And make sure you're really nice to yourself and explain things to yourself. Like for me, what helped me get a lot less anxious was I was like explaining to myself like why it was okay to be anxious about certain things. I'm like, I'm anxious because of this, because I want to do well, and that's normal. I'm anxious because this. I'm anxious because I care about seeing this person. I want to make a good impression, that type of thing. So just be nice. I like writing things down. I like talking out loud to myself. Yes, and outside of the mental health realm, I would say hello. Like I said earlier, I'm a musician and gaming streamer. I released new music a little less than a month ago. So if you're looking for more indie artists to support, you can look me up, Kisos, Kisos, everywhere. And Isolate Demons put my link in the chat for Twitch.
Yes, and he's on Spotify too, guys. So
yeah,
check that out.
Oh, Spotify man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Kent,
turn.
do you want to?
All right, hi, Kent Weaves. One thing that I like to tell myself is it's okay to like feel your bad emotions. It's okay to feel the emotions that you're feeling. You don't need to be happy all the time, and it's like you don't need to fully say that you're happy all the time too. If you're not feeling good, feel bad, feel shit, feel those emotions, and then think of the reasons why you're feeling those emotions, and then like work through them. I don't know, that's what I like to do, because like I don't always feel happy. I'm not always happy, and like I feel like it's a stigma to like you should always be happy, and like no, you can be upset, you can be sad, you can live in those dark emotions for a while, and they shouldn't even be called dark emotions. You should just live in other emotions. They all need space.
Interesting. Yeah.
Also, I'm a variety streamer. I've been doing a 100-day challenge of streaming in a row. Lately, I've been doing Animal Crossing. We're on day 92 tonight, and yeah, this has been really fun. Is a word.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm like...
This has been great, and I enjoyed this.
I'm so glad to have you here, guys. Thank you. Not to like extend this past the time, I'm sorry, but I do want to say something about Kent's bit about the dark emotions. I really like that. That was a very interesting way of, and I think that goes back with that stigma that we were talking about. Like that's been grained, right? Like our dark side, our dark emotions, the dark feelings, and it makes it seem bad, but they're human, and there's nothing wrong with you if you feel those things. They're just natural. They're part of it. And to build on what Kiso said about being kind to yourself, I think that is something that is severely overlooked. I think we're always very hard on ourselves. We always need ourselves to be like on and perfect, and like, why didn't you achieve this goal? Like, why aren't you this X, Y, and Z by 20, by 30, whatever? But being kind to yourself is probably like the best advice that I think anyone can give you. It was an advice that was given to me in my latest self-harm situation like 4 years ago, and those words just like resonated with me, and they just stuck with me, and I was like, God, she's right. Like, I'm very hard on myself. I am very hard on myself, and I need to just chill a little bit. I need to Netflix and chill a little bit, but not in that way, in this way, and just like take care of myself. You could do it that way too, to take care of yourself. That's cool. But like, I just need it alone, right? And chill right, with oneself. And I just needed to like find myself again. And I think the other thing that I want to mention to you guys is like, if you have a time in your life where you can't help someone who has mental health issues, that's okay too. I feel so often we feel the need to heal people and like help people, but I think someone gave a good example of like, if you're sinking yourself, like you can't help other people float or swim or whatever. Like, we all have issues we're dealing with, and sometimes we're just not okay enough to help other people. And I think that's something that my streaming journey taught me. Like, I was going through so much, and I always like leave my space open for people to reach out to me, and like, it was getting exhausting. Like, I was trying to help too many people, and it was like affecting me, and I needed to start being selfish. And there's nothing wrong with focusing on yourself. I know there's a negative connotation attached to selfishness, but when it's for your betterment and you're not hurting other people, like I wasn't hurting them by not being there. I was just like taking care of myself. I think it's completely fine. So I think that's a great takeaway too, guys. Don't feel the need to like heal the world. Take care of yourself first and build yourself up, get that strength, and then you can go and heal people and help people. Yeah.
Amen.
So I am going to talk privately with Kisos and Kent just to say bye to them, and I will be back and address all the follows in the sub. Thank you very much for that, guys. That's love and support. I very much appreciate that. I will be right back. See you soon, and yes, thank you very much for being here, Kent and Kisos.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to yay. So thank you for everyone being here. I really, really appreciate the time you've taken out of your busy lives to be part of this stream, to chill with us, to talk to us, to share your personal experiences, your thoughts, your opinions. Really means a lot. And I really do hope that the stream was informative. I really do hope that you enjoyed the stream. I always feel better when I have my Ravens Real Talks, because they're, for me, one of the few places that I find in the world where things are real and raw and uncut and like just real. So I value and I pride my stream in being a very real place, and my Real Talks are no different. They're real for a reason, right? So I hope it was enjoyable for you guys. I hope it was interesting. I hope it was engaging. And in advance, sorry, not in advance, I am very sorry for all of those comments that I missed. It does get very difficult talking and interacting with the guests, especially when they say something and it triggers a question in my mind, and I want it to flow naturally. It's hard to take breaks and focus on chat, or like be typing at chat while I'm trying to listen to them. So I hope you all understand, and I'm very sorry if I missed any, not if, I know I missed a lot of the comments, and I'm very sorry about that, but I do hope that you found it informative. So we are going to find someone damn scrumptious to raid and spread that good lovin'. And God willing, I will see you all tomorrow. Tomorrow's Community Day. That's a day where you guys pick what you want to play. So as always, in Discord, I will be posting a post in Raven's announcements of the options that I have laid out for you guys, and you just react to whatever you would like to play for tomorrow. And then Wednesday, we have Horror Hump Day. And for Horror Hump Day, we will be playing some Song of Horror, continuing that game. And then Thursday, we have our first viewing of Hotel Beau Séjour. And we'll be watching episodes 1 to 3, which is a suspense thriller type of TV show. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday are tentative streams, and we'll be doing a little bit of Assassin's Creed, Twitch Sings, Super Seducer, and learning the piano. So that will be coming up, but God willing, I will see you all soon. I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care. Stay scrumptious, and let's spread that good loving over to Flint. Definitely copy the raid message, and I'll see you soon, okay? Raven out. Let's go.